Rachel Maddow went to Dick Cheney's funeral yesterday. We can do this, people. It's Thanksgiving. Do yourself a favor, get over yourself, and go have it with your family.
If there's one thing we shouldn't have to say out loud in America, it's this. Thanksgiving should not be controversial, and yet here we are. Somehow, a holiday built around food, family, and falling asleep on the couch has turned into another political battlefield, and you almost have to laugh at how ridiculous it has become. But before we dive into the chaos, do me a quick favor and tap that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos where we break down the madness with a little humor and a lot of honesty. Now, let's get into it, because there's a lot to unpack here. Bill Maher kicked things off with that classic Maher mix of sarcasm and common sense when he said he couldn't believe even Thanksgiving has become a political issue. And honestly, same. When did stuffing, turkey, and sweet potato casserole turn into partisan problems, and who looked at mashed potatoes and thought this is somehow oppressive? But according to Maher, and let's be real, he's not wrong. The far left has been on a kind of holiday-destroying streak lately, where Halloween became problematic, Father's Day turned into a symbol of patriarchy, and now Thanksgiving is basically canceled unless everyone at the table votes the same way. Imagine being so ideological that you need a political background check before you pass the cranberry sauce. Maher also points out something deeper. This idea that we've reached a point where people are cutting off family not because of personal betrayal or some major falling out, but because someone voted red instead of blue or the other way around. How wild is that? We now live in a culture where politics has broken up more families than letting your partner scroll through your phone, and honestly, he's not wrong.
Happy Thanksgiving. I can't believe that even that now is a political issue. It is a real shame what's happened to this holiday, which used to be all about the good F's: food, friends, family, football, fun. And now it's fuck you. You're not even invited because you voted for the wrong person. I'm so tired of liberals ghosting half this country. Conservatives do it too, but not nearly as much. Look, whoever's doing it, it's got to stop, because we're at a point now where politics has broken up more families than letting your wife see your...
This no-contact wave Maher talked about isn't just random internet drama anymore. It's becoming an identity. There are people out here proudly announcing, almost like it's some badge of honor, that they won't sit with their own parents because of who they voted for. When did we turn into ideological Scientologists? Disconnection used to be a fringe idea, but now it's a full-on personality trait. Even David Litt, who literally worked as a speechwriter for Obama, publicly admitted he used to ignore his conservative relatives and realized that was a mistake. He owned up to it, and you'd think people would say, "Good for you, that's real growth." But nope. The woke wing basically tried to exile him for daring to suggest that maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't cut off half the country over political disagreements because heaven forbid someone takes a second to reflect and act like a normal human again.
Side, there's two camps now. The we need to keep talking to people wing and the go no contact wing. That's what they call it now, go no contact. This belief that Trump voters, even if it's your own parents, are too deplorable for human contact and must be cut off. You know, like Scientologists do to suppressive people. A former speechwriter for Obama named David Litt wrote an op-ed this year called, "Is it time to stop snubbing your right-wing family?" where he admitted he'd had a change of heart and that was the wrong approach. So, of course, then the woke wing tried to banish him for breaking ranks on their policy of hating people who don't agree with you on everything, because what fun is life if you're not cutting somebody off?
Then there's Molly McNierney, Jimmy Kimmel's wife and head writer, who talked about losing relationships with relatives because she emailed them 10 reasons not to vote for Trump and they didn't listen. 10 whole reasons. But as Maher said, even if you had 100 reasons, an ultimatum isn't persuasion, it's pressure. And pressure doesn't make people rethink their politics, it makes them rethink you. That line hit hard.
Molly McNierney, Jimmy Kimmel's wife and head writer, went public on this topic recently, so I feel it's fair to comment respectfully in public. She says she's lost relationships with relatives because she wrote them an email before the election with 10 reasons why they shouldn't vote for Trump, and some still didn't obey. So, you know. 10 reasons. I can think of 100. But I would never present it to someone as an ultimatum. Ultimatums don't make people rethink their politics, they make them rethink you.
Because it's so true, and that's where things really get interesting. The far left is acting like Thanksgiving is some unbearable moral test, as if sitting next to your uncle who watches Fox News is the same as dining with a war criminal. Newsflash, it's not that deep. Disagreeing with someone at the dinner table isn't oppression, it's called family. If anything, refusing to show up because someone supports the wrong candidate says more about your character than theirs. Thanksgiving is supposed to be a day to pause, breathe, and appreciate the good things, even the small ones. But some people are so consumed by political resentment they can't even pretend to be grateful for one single day, and they've turned bitterness into a lifestyle. Maher joked that some liberals treat their values as code for being the only ones with a moral compass. And it's true, but here's the twist. Maher himself votes Democrat, so he's not speaking from the right, he's speaking from the place where common sense used to live. His whole point is simple, that if 77 million Americans didn't trust your side to take power, maybe ask why, instead of acting like you're the only person who ever cared about the country. Somewhere along the way, my values became code for, I'm the only one with a moral compass.
Somewhere along the way, my values became code for, I'm the only one with a moral compass. You know what would have been a better exercise? Write a top 10 list to yourself where you try to imagine 10 reasons why 77 million Americans didn't want to trust you with taking power. And I say that as someone who votes Democratic. As I like to remind my very pure friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she lost.
Look, disagreement doesn't ruin a family gathering, but refusing to show up absolutely does. Mature people can sit in the same room with other adults who have different opinions without needing emotional life support. You can argue a little, you can push back, then you can pass the gravy like normal people. Not everything needs to turn into a moral war.
Not get it at this point. Everything with him is done through personal relationships. He's a people guy. Trust me, he's not at home at night poring over the briefing books. This is government by people is saying. If anything, we need more people like me having dinner with him. You complain he's surrounded by ass-kissers, but your strategy is to make sure no one but ass-kissers are around him. You are not.
And then we get to the bigger point. This idea that the far left has developed a real hostility toward free speech. You've seen it happen. The moment you say something even slightly outside the approved narrative, they don't just argue with you, they try to destroy you. The goal isn't conversation, it's punishment and fear. Agree with us or else. Suddenly, people are digging up tweets from 10 years ago, emailing HR departments, pushing for firings, blacklisting, cancellations, whatever it takes to eliminate the heretic. And if that doesn't work, they go after your spouse, your friends, your social life. It's no longer a disagreement. It's ideological warfare. That's where Maher brings up the UK, because right now Britain is showing us a preview of the nightmare this mindset creates. People are literally being arrested over tweets. Graham Linehan, a famous writer with tons of awards, was detained by police not for violence, not for threats, not for harming anyone, but for having the wrong online opinions about gender. That's the road the ultra-ideological left leads to. And while America thankfully isn't there, you can definitely see the seeds.
Rachel Maddow went to Dick Cheney's funeral yesterday. We can do this, people. It's Thanksgiving. Do yourself a favor, get over yourself, and go have it with your...
Maher basically says, listen, you can't defend silencing people. Even Lisa Cook, a Federal Reserve board member, tried to get a professor fired for not being enthusiastic enough about MLK Day. Not insulting, not hateful, just not enthusiastic enough. That's where we are now. It's not enough to agree, you have to agree in the correct way, loudly, with passion, and with the approved wording. If that's not ideological control, then what is?
Become what the UK is now. A place where you get arrested for tweets. Something that happens 12,000 times a year now in Britain. Last week, the Irish sitcom writer Graham Linehan, who's won an Emmy and 5 BAFTA awards, got off a plane at Heathrow and got arrested by 5 British cops. Not because he was selling drones to the Houthis, just because he's a crank who spends way too much time online ranting about gender ideology, which is an odd obsession for a comedian from across the pond, because if men weren't allowed to dress as women, British comedy wouldn't exist.
And then Maher quotes Ricky Gervais, who said it best. If you don't believe in someone's right to say things you personally find offensive, then you don't actually believe in free speech. Free speech that only protects what you already like isn't free speech, it's censorship dressed up as virtue. Freedom sometimes means hearing things that annoy you, hearing people say things that make you roll your eyes. It covers everything from J. K. Rowling's carefully written essays to Dave Chappelle's jokes, to Graham Linehan's cranky Twitter rants. You don't have to like any of it, but you can't demand people be fired, isolated, silenced, or arrested just because you hated a punchline.
Don't be a hypocrite and defend attacks on speech from the left, because you either get the concept or you don't. And sadly, a lot of people don't anymore. Yes, mostly the young who were never taught it by their derelict educational system, but also Lisa Cook. She's the Fed board member Trump is trying to fire for bullshit reasons, and they are bullshit. But when she tried to get another professor fired because he once, according to one student, was less than rapturous about Martin Luther King Day, no, she should know better. She said free speech should have its limits. Yes, it should, and does. And this comes nowhere close to them.
That's not progress. It's authoritarianism with emojis. And all of this ties right back into Thanksgiving, because the mindset is the same. Conform completely or you're out. Agree with us fully or you don't deserve a place at the table. Think differently and we'll shame you, exile you, or cancel you. That's not how a free society works. That's not how families stay together. And that's not how democracy functions. A healthy society debates ideas instead of destroying people. It accepts complexity. It leaves room for nuance. And it understands that disagreement isn't hostility. It's normal. And honestly, the inability to tolerate different viewpoints is the biggest threat to freedom we're facing right now. Not Trump tweeting mean things, not your uncle's bad political takes, and not awkward conversations at dinner. It's the cultural crusade demanding silence, emotional obedience, and ideological purity. Thanksgiving should be a break from all of that, a reset, a moment to remember that gratitude matters more than outrage, and family matters more than political points. So Maher's message hits hard because it's true. If you can't sit at a table with someone who disagrees with you, the problem isn't them, it's you. And that brings the whole thing full circle. Politics shouldn't be the reason we cut people off. Holidays shouldn't turn into battlegrounds. Free speech shouldn't come with conditions. And disagreement shouldn't be treated like violence. If we can't tolerate different opinions, then we can't call ourselves free. And that's the entire point today. Thanksgiving is more than a holiday. It's a reminder that unity doesn't require everyone to think the same, and gratitude is still possible even in a divided world. And that wraps up today's commentary. So if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more content that cuts through the noise with honesty and clarity, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your thoughts so we can keep the conversation going respectfully, openly, and freely.